Welcome everybody, ProBox TV, the post-fight show, Usyk versus Fury. We're all still doing this. We're all still nervous from an amazing fight that left us with an undisputed champion the first time in 2 decades. His name, Alexander Usyk. Jimmy Smith, alongside Paulie Malignaggi, Chris Algieri, joining us via Zoom from the beach. He's got his shirt ready to go. I could not believe this fight. Not just the beginning, not just the end, the adjustments made. Paulie, was that the story to you?
Yeah, I mean, both guys really, it was a high IQ fight. It was an exciting fight because you really didn't know what adjustments were going to keep being made. I mean, I thought early on the first surprise was Usyk bringing the fight to Fury. You know, we were all expecting Fury to use his natural heavyweight size. Instead, he came out boxing. And Usyk's taking it to him. You know, and then, you know, Fury's jab is the early indicator of the advantage, and then Usyk starts to time him and then take advantage. And then you see Fury start to land the uppercut and start to, you know, get Usyk's attention. And you can see Usyk's in a little bit of trouble. And then Usyk makes the adjustment back and ends up knocking down Fury and closes stronger. Really a momentum, crazy roller coaster type of fight. But it lived up to the hype. It lived up to the hype. A very close decision. In the end, the knockdown ends up being the difference. That last 114-113 for Usyk card, if there's no knockdown, that's going to be a draw. And the other two cards were split. It would have been a draw. That knockdown won the heavyweight title for Alexander Usyk, on the undisputed title.
Hey, Chris, your thoughts on that? Not just the ebb and flow of the fight, but, you know, as Paulie was saying, when we were talking about it during the fight, it's almost like they were preparing us for a draw from the beginning. Razor-thin margin in this fight. What are your thoughts, man?
Guys, this is not a boxing IQ fight because their boxing IQ was so high that anybody? So in terms of boxing IQ, I don't think this is a boxing IQ fight. This was a dog fight. This was two men fighting to the burger to try and figure this out. And came out, Usyk was really strong early, and then Fury figured out his boxing skills. And he showed his IQ, and he showed his ability to fight with the back foot really well. And I expected him to like use this physicality in the middle rounds, and he tried to, and then he got hurt. That was the biggest issue going on during that fight, was that Usyk looked like he could not hurt Tyson Fury. Once he did, busted his nose, swelled his eye, swelled the other eye, the fight changed. Usyk is a dog. And that's what mattered in this fight. It wasn't boxing IQ. This is not boxing IQ or boxing IQ. I think they matched wits, met they were even, and then Usyk said, you know what, dog? I'm a soldier. I'm going to come out there and use my toughness, my ability, my doggedness to figure out this fight. And that's exactly what happened.
Let's explain a little bit to the fans who were watching who thought, oh, why didn't they stop the fight? Why was that a knockdown? Paulie, you and I agreed, yeah, it could have stopped the fight, but if the ropes are the thing holding you up, that's a knockdown. The ref did the right thing.
Yeah, and it's also, in the moment, it's a huge fight, you know, so you're trying to give every opportunity to the combatants. With the ropes holding you up, though, it's technically supposed to be a knockdown and not a knockout. So I thought that was a smart call by the ref. I'm always unsure about these smaller refs and refereeing these big heavyweights, but the referee did a good job there and called it right. You know, you always value the experience of these kind of referees as well. But again, that ended up being the difference in the fight. And Champ, Chris, you're right, man. I mean, it was IQ, but it was also doggedness, you know. And at the end, these two guys were sort of matched up so evenly well, going back and forth with the adjustments they made, that it ended up being really the doggedness of Usyk that won him the fight.
Were you surprised a little bit, Chris, by the strategy of Fury, and that we didn't see the mauling, we didn't see a lot of holding, we didn't see a lot of hugging, we didn't see a lot of big brother stuff from the much bigger heavyweight? Did that surprise you?
No, because I disagree with you. I think we did see Big Brother stuff. I think he tried to, and then he got hurt. I think Fury had a really distinct game plan, and it was smart. I was watching it unfold. He boxed off the back foot really well early on. He let Usyk come forward, do what he had to do. He won those first couple rounds, and then Tyson took over in the middle rounds. He was boxing really well off the back foot, and then I expected him, with all that body work that he was doing, to slow Usyk down, which it looked like he was doing that. And then he was going to start to get physical. And then he did. And then he got rocked. Yeah. And then the fight changed.
And Jim,
as soon as he was not impenetrable to the punches of Usyk, that fight became a fight. Because Fury was in dominant control in those middle rounds. He was really boxing well. The uppercut was a very vicious weapon. The body shots throughout were fantastic. Very well placed. He wasn't looking for them too much. He was placing them at the right time. He hurt Usyk multiple times. But, dude, I keep saying this. Usyk is a soldier. He came through the fire. This is what this guy does. He's been in, I've seen him in tough fights in the amateurs. I've seen him in tough fights at cruiserweight. I've seen him in tough fights at heavyweight. He finds a way to win. He has the X factor that a lot of other fighters do not have. Usyk is something special.
Yeah, somebody right now in the chat, Chicken Pie 113 said, man, the recovery of Fury was really amazing. I thought he might have been done after that knockdown. Yeah. He came back really. Talk about the heart of Usyk. The heart of Fury was there too.
Well, both guys had to show that mental endurance in the fight. You know, I honestly, I want to bring on another point here, champ, more so to you. Even the mental pressure Usyk was putting on early, even when Fury was doing well in the fight early on, it seemed like Usyk's mental pressure kept Fury busy constantly, you know, mentally thinking, mentally stressed. And even when Fury was doing well in the fight, just that mental pressure can cause that fatigue. And then once he got that knockdown, it was almost like you could see the sand draining out of the hourglass of Fury, you know, and then you saw Usyk start sort of get that second wind and bring it on, because it's almost like his mental pressure finally started to pay off later. Obviously, mental pressure also has physical pressure. He made the physical adjustments as well, landing some left hands and even right hooks and stuff, and even touching to the body. But really, I also thought that mental pressure he was constantly applying to Fury as the fight progressed, regardless of whether Fury was doing better, it kept Fury working, it kept Fury stressed, and it kept Fury having to focus constantly every second of every round, which can also later on cause you a little bit more fatigue.
Now, Chris, yeah, when you look at it there, the punches of Fury didn't back Usyk off. They hurt him a couple times. They slowed him down a little bit. They didn't back him off. They didn't give him the physical space, Paul. You talked about the rest you want if you're Fury.
Well, that's where the mental fortitude, like Chris is saying, the soldier mentality of Usyk. Because there were moments where I thought some of the body shots got Usyk's attention, where he'd back off for a second, and then he'd say, you know what? No, let me apply it. Let me stay positioned pressure-wise. Let me stay in let me not break my shape, so to speak, and stay in front of him and keep cutting him off or whatnot. There were moments where Fury, I felt, gave Usyk some issues and backed him off just for a second with a nice uppercut. The uppercut was working very well. A couple of body shots, but it was almost like Usyk saying, okay, no, I got to get back on you. I'm going to keep you working. I'm going to keep your mind stressed. Even if you're going to do well, let's see if you can handle it, and let's see if this pressure will pay off. And it started to pay off more and more as a fight progressed.
I'm going to one up you on that.
Go ahead, champ.
Fury hurt Usyk multiple times in that fight. Hurt him to the body, hurt him to the head throughout the fight, multiple times. Usyk refused to stay hurt. Yeah. Refused to stay hurt. Yep. You're going to crack me the right hand? I'm going to take a step back and be like, man, this guy's big and strong. You know what? Yep. I'm going to get right back into his breadbasket, and I'm going to push this fight. He made a decision. I don't know if it was I don't know if it was in camp. I don't know if it was in the locker room. I don't know if he was standing eye to eye with this guy. I don't know if it was at the press conference. He goes, you know what? I'm going to be in your face all night long. I'm going to push a pace that you can't keep. I'm going to get you, and I'm going to hurt you. And once I do, I'm taking over.
Yep. And that's the thing. The layers start peeling off little by little. That mental pressure, little by little, starts to create more and more openings. As Fury fatigues a little bit more, you're starting to see some of those left hands that maybe were missing early on. Now they're cracking Fury. You know, Fury's standing up high. Now early on, maybe he was getting away a little bit more when he was up high. Now those shots are starting to hit him. And you saw the nose of Fury.
You got a 260-pound guy. Hey, guys, real quick, look at the background. Look at the background of the studio. You see that photo?
Yeah.
That's the fight.
Yeah.
That's the fight.
But
you're confident? I'm coming for you. I'm coming for you, bro.
Here's what a lot of our viewers are saying in the chat is that perhaps Fury didn't respect the power of Usyk. You talk about the photo, look how much bigger Fury is than Usyk, that maybe he didn't respect the power. He was surprised that the punches had so much effect. Paulie, do you think that was part of it? As soon as he got hit, it was, oh my God, this guy can really crack. It was late in the fight, but he was surprised by the power a bit.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, I was a little bit surprised myself. I thought Usyk's snap and his ability to get shots off that you don't really see coming would force Fury to respect it somehow, you know, to a degree. But I never expected Fury to be hurt like that, you know. But again, I also think it comes down to the mental pressure first, where you're slowly chopping that tree down, mentally draining him, and then all of a sudden the openings start to create themselves more and more and more because it's stressing. Every single round it's stressing, and as the fight wears on, those shots start to open up more and more, and I feel like that's what ended up happening.
Another thing, our viewers a lot of them are talking about a standing 8 count. It wasn't a standing 8 count. If you hit the ropes and the ropes are holding you up,
the ropes hold you up.
That's an official knockdown.
Yeah.
That's what was called in round
And you know
number
why
eight.
the
Sorry,
fans
round number
sometimes
nine.
why the fans are sometimes confused, because you see a lot of referees make mistakes there.
Right.
You see a lot of referees just stop the fight instead of taking the option to give that count when the ropes are holding a guy up. That is always an option. I mean, the option is also to stop the fight if you want, but it's not mandatory to stop the fight there. If the ropes are clearly holding a guy up, where in Fury's case they were, that's technically a knockdown. You don't have to stop the fight. You can give that count. But the reason I think some of the fans are a little bit confused by it is because you see a lot of referees make that mistake. They end up just stopping the fight in that situation.
Well, the fans are confused because they don't necessarily know the rules.
Yeah.
That was the right call.
Yeah.
Which in a high intensity situation like that, which is really hard to do for any ref, I think it was handled perfectly.
Yeah, I thought so too. And that's the point. A lot of times, seems like the referees don't know the rules.
Right.
You've seen a lot of moments like that where referees stop the fight instead of giving the count, and I think that causes the confusion onto the fans because they're probably going by muscle memory and saying, "Oh, well, I've seen that. That's supposed to be a stoppage and not. What is he doing? They're counting." So the rule is, guys at home, if the ropes are clearly holding you up, that's a knockdown, and the referee's supposed to count it that way.
What are our thoughts on the scores? And you said the knockdown made the difference, 113, 114. No knockdown, it's a draw.
On the official decision, it was.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
On the official decision, it was the knockdown ended up making the difference.
Right. So what are your thoughts on the closeness of that scorecard? Do you think Usyk had a little more padding? What's your thought on it?
I probably had another point for Usyk, even without the knockdown. I had it 7-5 Usyk, and then with the knockdown, it's 115, 112. But if you have it 6-6, the knockdown ends up being the difference. And if you look at it be it as it may, we got the scorecards we got. We got one for Usyk, we got one for Fury, which I don't know, Metcalf maybe he fell asleep for a couple of rounds when Usyk was dominating. And then we have the last scorecard, which is 1 point for Usyk, and that was the one where if there would have been no knockdown, the fight would have been a draw.
When you look at the performance itself, the winner of this fight, of course, the greatest heavyweight of this particular era. Chris, did Usyk have that kind of performance? We talk about the greatest heavyweights of all time. Usyk's name is going to be in there. Of course, they're going to have a rematch. Of course, his career isn't over. This performance tonight, was it that kind of performance to you?
No question. Usyk is a bad man and is all time. This was... And I'm going to say this because Fury looked really good. Fury fought a great fight. And this is what we want in our sport. Boxing is back, baby. We got a heavyweight undisputed champion, two guys who fought their hearts out and did everything they could do in every single way. And it came down to blood, guts, and glory. And this is why we love this sport. We had two guys who were evenly matched in so many different ways. And you had obviously Fury, who was so much bigger, which the fight looked insane that they were in the same weight class. Like, it's crazy. The guy's 40 pounds bit heavier. He's 6 inches taller. He's got a 7-inch reach advantage. And Usyk used sweet science to nullify all of that. I mean, and then showed the toughness and the skill and the grit. Man, I think Fury fought a great fight. I think he did everything he didn't need to do to win the fight. Usyk was just better tonight. Your thoughts on it? Is it one of those history-making performances, Paul?
Yeah, absolutely. Look at encompass the whole thing. This is a former undisputed cruiserweight champion who's now come up to the heavyweight division, beaten 2 out of the 3 top guys of the heavyweight generation. The only one he didn't get was Wilder, and that was only because Wilder has fallen off himself now. But he took on Joshua and beat him. Took on Fury and beat him now. I mean, he came up from the cruiserweight division where it was a tough cruiserweight division. Not every generation of cruiserweights is tough. Usyk won the undisputed cruiserweight title in a generation of really tough cruiserweights. And then he came up to the heavyweight division. And maybe it's not your toughest heavyweight generation, but it's not one of your worst ones either. It's a pretty tough heavyweight generation we're in right now. And for him to become the undisputed heavyweight champion after having won the undisputed cruiserweight champion, I mean, yeah, you're talking about all-time great status, which I think he already had. But now you're comparing him to, you're having the conversation. Is he the greatest of all time or not? You know what I'm saying? You're always going to have, is he the best heavyweight of all time or not? And now those are always debatable conversations. There's never really a right and wrong answer. But he's earned his way into that conversation now.
All right, we have a chat right here. It says, one of the greatest heavyweight showdowns in decades. Give us the rematch now. I can see Fury winning in a rematch, honestly. Best Fury since Klitschko. That's from Matt Borgensen. What are your thoughts on a rematch, the appetite for it now? A great 12-round fight. That usually means a great rematch.
And that's a great point, the best Fury since Klitschko, because he was doing a lot of the things that worked on Klitschko. He came out trying to play around, trying to get in Usyk's head, popping out that jab and then being all awkward with his hands down and whatnot. Usyk stayed stoic the whole time. It's almost like he said, all right, that might have worked on my countrymen, and I've learned from that, and I've seen how that worked mentally on Vladimir Klitschko. None of that garbage is going to work on me. I'm just going to stay stoic, stay emotionless. Even during the introductions, he just kept looking across the ring and didn't react. All week during the press conferences, just didn't react. Didn't give Fury anything to be able to grow in confidence off of. And then he fought a great technical fight. I could see, Fury making the proper adjustments. Sure. I mean, this was a close fight. It was a competitive fight. I could see Fury again with his chip on his shoulder, wanting to come back and make this right. I could see a classic trilogy. We haven't had a classic trilogy in the heavyweight division in a while. Yeah, we had Fury and Wilder. That was a classic. But aside from that, though, we haven't had one of those classic trilogies like back in the day where we had several of them. We had we have Lennox and Holyfield. We had the rematch with Tyson and Holyfield. That was another one. Guys would fight each other a couple of times each. Moore and Holyfield fought a couple of times. So you got a situation here where Fury can win. It sets up an all-time great trilogy.
What are your thoughts on it, Chris? When you look at a rematch, I mean, great 12 rounds. That means the 13th, 14th, 15th. We want to see the next one. How? Why? How much are you looking forward to it?
No, it has to happen. This fight was as close as it could be. Usyk won the fight. There's no question. I thought that while it was happening, he found the rhythm later on. He found the momentum. But listen, Fury put on a great 12th round. He landed some good shots. I thought he actually rocked Usyk a few times, but Usyk is just dogged. I don't know if it changes. I don't know if the outcome changes. Excuse me. But we got to see it again. We need a distinct winner. I know Fury is going to want it. I've missed the post-fight interviews, obviously, because I'm here with you guys. Love you guys. This is great that we do this. But I'm curious to see what these guys are saying. I saw a tremendous amount of respect between these two men. I think it was around 10 or 11. There was a clash of heads, and Fury touched gloves. Boom. These guys have a tremendous amount of respect for each other, and they understand their skill set. And that's my point, is that I think they matched wits, and they saw they were even. And then it just came down to who was dogger that moment. And for tonight, it was Usyk.
Another question when it comes to how we see boxing history. Brother Styles asked us, is Usyk the best in the world right now? His pound-for-pound status. What are your thoughts? Even outside the heavyweight division, we were doing a lot of pound-for-pound talk. What are your thoughts?
Even pound-for-pound, I said this before, if he beats Fury, you might have to at least consider putting him #1 pound-for-pound. He was already top 3. Listen, the Crawfords, Inoues, and Usyks of the world were kind of in a separate class of pound-for-pound level. But this is a difficult accomplishment that he just pulled off, and against a Fury who came in pretty good today. He was pretty good tonight. And he still managed to beat him, and he beat him in the way
he was more than pretty good.
Yeah,
Fury
I thought he was excellent.
Yeah,
Fury looked good.
It was a good Fury, and it was for Usyk to beat that Fury, to accomplish this and beat that Fury. You know what, bro? I really gotta go back and think about this, man. But he might be #1 pound-for-pound right now.
Well, here's the deal, Chris. If you can speak to this, we're hesitant to call the heavyweight champion the pound-for-pound best. Why? Because he's the biggest. He's the strongest. He hits the hardest. Usyk doesn't do any of those things. As Paulie said, he's a natural cruiserweight coming up to heavyweight and beat the best heavyweight of his generation. Pound-for-pound status, is that in the cards for him?
Yes. Way. So I've been saying this about Usyk this whole time. He's a guy who just knows how to win. He doesn't know how to lose. He's never lost. We're talking gold medalist. He collected the cruiserweight belts, taking every head of every champion. Did it the hard way. Beat the toughest guys in the division, beat the champions in the division, moves up to heavyweight, struggles early, but then beats the best guys. He beat Joshua and Fury at this point. I mean, yeah, cool. It's a heavyweight, but he's not even a heavyweight. And he's beating these guys, and he's outwilling them. Until I see him falter, until I see him succumb, I don't know who beats him in any weight class.
Well, Jordan Williams asked us, and it's an excellent question, best back and forth heavyweight championship since Bo Holyfield. Is it? You remember?
Yeah.
Is it, Paulie?
Yeah, I mean, again, it's hard to go back into your memory for the past 30 years all in 1 second, but.
And which one? There were 3 of them, right?
Yeah, but Bo and Holyfield was one of those where they went back and forth, and even within the same fight, went back and forth, and a lot of momentum changes. This was a fight with a lot of momentum changes. When you have that, you get both the cerebral aspect of the boxing, as well as what the champ said, that mental digging down aspect of the boxing, and both of these guys showed that in this fight. It was really, really high-class stuff and worthy of an undisputed heavyweight title fight.
Well, you got to show everybody your shirt.
This fight was different because...
He's got the Ivan Drago shirt, which is similar kind of performance, Chris. But it had that Ivan Drago. You heard him. He's just a man, right? When you heard him in round number 9, there was a little bit of that. There was a technique. There was also the dog. What are your thoughts on it? All-time great heavyweight fight.
I disagree. I think this was a highly contested boxing IQ fight. Very different than Bo Holyfield. I think both those guys checked their IQ at the door, and they say, you know what? Here's my nuts. Let's fight. Different fight than this. These guys came out matching wits. Two very smart, high boxing IQ fighters who went out there and matched wits. And then when they met their match, they said, all right, now late in the fight, we're going to figure out who's got bigger nuts.
Nuts and guts.
Than Holyfield.
Nuts and guts.
Yeah. Nuts and guts. This was a nuts and guts final. Holyfield Bo was nuts and guts from opening bell.
From the beginning to the end, they went to war. We have another question. Matt Borgerson again. Do you think Fury's performance versus Usyk, win or loss, was this the redeemer from the Ngannou fight where he looked disinterested, looked a little out of shape, bad performance?
I think this fight, if anything, it proves that he didn't take Ngannou seriously. I mean, we in boxing can kind of tell what a sharp Fury looks like. So we knew the way he fought that Ngannou fight, where it wasn't just that Ngannou did well. It was also Fury's punches were sloppy, his feints were sloppy, the way he was standing in his stance and getting away from defensively was sloppy. You could see it just wasn't a guy who took that fight very seriously. And of course his weight. I mean, his weight was way heavier coming into the fight than it was tonight. So there's a lot of things that show tonight. Yes, you need the performance as a redeemer as far as wiping away the optics from the Ngannou fight, but you also you get the proof that Fury, when he wants to focus and when he puts his head down and says, I'm going to give it my all and focus fully on this fight, he can still be one of the best in the world. And that showed tonight.
Redeeming performance to you, Chris, after the Ngannou debacle. He did win, but not a performance where he looked great. Did he redeem himself tonight against Usyk, even in a loss?
No question. He looked phenomenal. I was really impressed with Tyson tonight. He looked like the Tyson of old. He looked like the guy that we all saw and we were like, man, this guy's really hard to beat. And Usyk figured it out in front of our eyes. I think Usyk is I think both men are very special. But Tyson's is redeemed. I think boxing is redeemed off this. It was a fantastic fight. A matchup that needed to happen. An undisputed title that was 24 years in the making. And now we have an undisputed baddest man on the planet. Heavyweight boxing is back live and real. Listen, boxing's back, baby. This was huge. Not only was this fight important, but it was good. I was on my edge of my seat all night,
high drama.
Just like everyone watching it.
High drama.
Yeah.
Bro, my stomach was in knots from the opening bell to the end. So, boxing's back. Fury's back. Usyk is a different thing.
Well, here's the deal. As they say in boxing a lot of the time, the sport of boxing itself goes where the heavyweight division goes. If the heavyweight division is hot, boxing's hot. If it's not, boxing has some problems. This has to have heated up the heavyweight division in a big way, but we have another question from Sun, Sale, and San. What is the rule for a 10-7 round other than 2 knockdowns in a round? I thought the 9th was a 10-7 round. They're extremely rare. All right, you need multiple knockdowns to get that. Definitely a 10-8 round, but 10-7, no, it wasn't that one-sided. Paulie, your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, there's an option that you can give a 10-7 round if it's a knockdown plus the guy barely stands for the rest of the round and gets beaten from pillar to post. The reason they're not given as often as well, even 10-6 rounds when there's more than a couple knockdowns, is because then you take one guy completely out of the fight as far as his ability to work his way back into the fight. So you don't want to give those too generously unless you really have to. So yeah, there's an argument for it, but honestly, it's not. There's more of an argument not to do it. There's more of an argument to say, you know what, otherwise you end the competitive aspect of the fight in one round, in a fight that had been very, very competitive. So I get where that question's coming from, but yes, I disagree.
Ross.
Zero argument for that, guys. Zero argument for that.
Yeah.
Chris is a little more direct than this.
You got to educate the fans a bit. Some people want to know. And also, Ross Kemp on Your Mom Won said, Chris looks like Viggo Mortensen in Carlito's Way with that shirt. Chris, I agree completely, first off, with that statement. I love that shirt. Also,
he's an Argentinian, too, so I'll take that.
There you go. But he also says the right uppercut caused Usyk a lot of problems. It did. Yeah. I thought it might have been the determiner of the fight as he was throwing it. That and the body shot. Did Fury, to you, strategically get away from that a little bit? Because it looked like the body and the uppercut was
getting like Usyk more so started to get off the trigger a little faster and take it away from Fury, you know? Because an uppercut is still a bit of a slower punch to throw than the others. If you notice one thing that I was noticing over the course of the fight, though, Fury was setting it up going the opposite direction of the way you're supposed to go against a southpaw, by the book anyway. You know, but it is a punch that you kind of open up by moving the opposite direction, by moving towards the southpaw's left. And he opened it up very, very well, which proves more so than anything else, because I also believed in this when I was fighting southpaws. It's not necessarily, everybody makes like, oh, you got to go clockwise against the southpaw, stay on the outside of his foot. There are punching angles you open up if you go the opposite way. You just got to be careful going towards the guy's power. And I felt like Tyson Fury did a very good job of opening up that uppercut lane, opening up lanes for that uppercut when he was going that way. But eventually, it seemed like he got away from it. Was it a little bit of adjustments from Usyk? Was it a little bit of tiring from Fury? You know, you pay with enough shots. You know, you want to maybe not throw the uppercut for as often as you were, because it's a risk punch you're throwing.
Chris, another thing that you brought up all this week was Usyk's ability to throw without loading his shots. They just come out of nowhere. That speed, especially up close, kind of surprised Tyson Fury a bit. Was that a big story of the fight to you?
I actually thought Tyson had the faster hands tonight. I mean, he was letting his hands go really well from the outside.
His jab was really snappy,
real quick.
Very snappy. Very snappy. Even in the last round, the 12th round, he landed some really hard, snappy jams right in the last 10 seconds. I'm going to go back to that right uppercut, because I made comment of that right uppercut on a live chat that I was doing during the fight. The reason that thing went away was the right hook of Usyk. What challenges the right uppercut when you guys? You got to remember, we're fighting Southpaw Orthodox. What is the counter to the right uppercut from his Orthodox fighter? Is a right hook, check hook from the opposite side. Boom. And as soon as Usyk was able to get the respect and hurt Fury, fight changed. He stopped throwing the same kinds of punches because he was protecting himself from getting hurt. Once his nose was broke, once his eyes started swelling, once he realized that this guy can actually hurt me, because in the beginning it just looked like he couldn't hurt him. But Usyk was really smart to tenderize the body from round 1 and on. I gave Usyk the first 2 rounds. Third round was really close. All the body work that he did was fantastic. If you listen, guys, watch that fight again. Listen to the snap on those little straight left hands to the body. Within the first 10 seconds of round number 1, Usyk lands a snappy straight left hand to the body. And yeah, okay, Fury's a bigger guy. Dude, those add up. And then they paid off later on.
We have a question here. Another one. Matt Borgerson, do you think Fury's performance versus Usyk was stronger than both of Joshua's? You think that?
Fury's performance against Usyk stronger?
Like, it was more up and down, but, you know.
Yeah. I mean, I think it was a stronger performance. I think Joshua did very well in the rematch, though. You know, it forced Usyk to close stronger in order to get the win. And Usyk also had to, you know, make a change in this fight as well, get that knockdown and change the momentum of this fight too, because Fury also had the advantage. So I think I'd say it's slightly stronger, but I did like the rematch approach Joshua took against Usyk as well.
Your thought, Chris? Do you think Fury or Joshua's second fight obviously did better in the rematch? What are your thoughts on his performance versus Usyk in comparison to Fury?
I think they're pretty equal. The only reason that Fury is stronger is because it was his first time having Usyk in front of him. It took Joshua two fights to figure him out and get better. You know, and he made it. You know, listen, they both lost by split decision. Both are close fights. Joshua fought really well in the second fight. I called that fight live, but it took Joshua 12 rounds in the bank to figure out how to fight him properly. Fury did it off the bat.
Another question here. What would you guys like to see Fury do differently to get the better end of Usyk in a rematch? I think he needs to fight even lighter. Somebody says 260. We were worried about him getting too light for this fight. Paulie, tactically, physically, what would you like to see the adjustments that Fury would make in a rematch?
For one, stay with the jab. You know, I thought the jab, even when Usyk was having the early success, especially like round 1, where Usyk came out and worked, I thought Tyson Fury's jab was very, very nice and snappy, but then he kind of went away from it. Fury started countering it a little bit, and some of the things Usyk did took away the jab from Fury in spots. But you notice that when he did use it, it was always a good weapon. I'd say Fury has to stay sharp with that jab, and which takes mental full focus, because again, that mental pressure Usyk is bringing you can make pieces of you come undone. And it seemed like one of the things that came undone for Fury in spots was the consistent use of the jab.
Do you think a lighter Fury has even more trouble with those body shots, Chris? Usyk was throwing them, as you said, from the beginning. In a rematch, you come in, do you think heavier or lighter? What's your thought?
I didn't like the weight. I thought he should have been bigger. He boxed really well with his back foot, which made me think that, all right, maybe the weight wasn't a bad idea. But it didn't come down to any of that. It came down to sick, man. He found a way, and whether he was 5 pounds heavier or 5 pounds lighter, I don't think Usyk was the better man tonight.
So how does Fury win the rematch, champ? Can he win the rematch?
He needs to not fall asleep in the middle rounds. You know, he let Usyk be busy in the first couple of rounds. He found his rhythm really well in the middle rounds, and then he got hit and he got hurt. You know, once his nose got damaged and his eye got damaged, then he had to be in a dogfight.
But is that a product of the mental pressure Usyk applied early that then made Fury fall asleep in the middle rounds? Can Fury do something in the rematch to maybe undo some of that early mental pressure Usyk is doing? Does he need to come in heavier so he can push back Usyk early on, so some of that mental pressure is less consistent and he has more left in the second half of the fight?
Whether he's heavier or not, you got to tie him up on the inside. And Fury was doing too much. That's when a big guy gets his nose broken.
Busting position.
Pull straight back. Boom. Everything. Dude, make the fight ugly. He did it to Klitschko. Just make the fight ugly. There's nothing wrong with it. Listen, win. Listen, we had a great fight. I'm not going to say you should have made the fight ugly so we don't have a great fight. But if you want to win, use everything to your ability. And for Fury, having those assets, being bigger, being stronger, being longer, being heavier, tie that man up. Every time he's close to you, tie him up. There was very little tie-ups. Fury stood and fought.
Klitschko was an excellent heavyweight, but I think Usyk mentally is a bit stronger than Klitschko. You know,
yes,
I
agree.
I think, you know, the fact, because I saw Fury trying a lot of the same things in the build-up that worked on Klitschko. It's almost like they worked on one Ukrainian. Let's see if they work on the other one. And it's almost like Usyk kind of learned from the things that undid Klitschko. Nothing really worked on him, and he stayed down. He stayed kind of digging down on his mouthpiece and dug down. Yep, absolutely.
Usyk is a rock.
Gentlemen, we were talking earlier this week about pound-for-pound greatness. We talked about the cliff that every fighter comes to eventually. A lot of people in the chat talking about the wear on Fury. We know about the Undertaker impression he did against Deontay Wilder. Is this more damage? Take more in this fight than he has other times when he's been hurt, against Wilder, of course. Do you see this fight doing more damage to Fury than previous fights? Paulie, what's your thought on it?
I mean, listen, every fight you leave a little piece of yourself in there. But that's a great point that's brought up, though. 3 fights with Deontay Wilder. I can't imagine with a guy that kind of firepower doing 36 rounds with him. I can't imagine you don't leave at least a little piece of yourself in those fights. You know, the trauma you taken in those fights. You know, again, it really takes you fighting a guy on this level to see. And we saw it tonight that Usyk kind of brought it out and he dropped Fury himself. But, you know, after Fury beat Wilder in those 3, they got the best of that trilogy. You know, it kind of diminished in level of opposition for a little bit, and now we're kind of seeing that same high level. And it's possible that the trauma taken against Wilder in 3 fights, living crazily outside the ring for a while after the Klitschko fights as well. You know, he's up and down with his weight, and he's a little bit inconvenient sometimes as far as trying to hone him down and be disciplined. You know, it catches up to you. It does catch up to you eventually.
Yeah. So what is your thought, Chris, about the amount of damage Fury took? Is this that kind of, I don't know if he's going to be the same guy, or does he rebound very well if they have a rematch, which they probably will?
No, I don't think physically it was a very damaging fight at all. I think the Wilder fights were way more damaging, getting your chin checked multiple times over and over against a really big puncher. And he didn't get hit all that much. It wasn't like he was getting rocked over and over again in this fight. And Usyk isn't a huge puncher. Obviously hurt him and almost had him out. But no, I don't see this as a physically damaging fight as much as it is a psychologically damaging fight.
But Chris,
Because there were times in this.
without the Wilder fight, does he get chin checked tonight? If you don't have those 3 fights with Wilder, does he get hurt the same way he did tonight?
Impossible to say. It's Champ. You're asking the question because you're a fighter. You smart. You know you know what it means when your chin just gets weaker over time. I don't know if it's a case of him getting checked or if it's age. I don't know if it's just Usyk being Usyk. He got hit with some clean shots. Listen, these are heavyweights. Listen, we keep talking about how small Usyk is. He's the same size as Muhammad Ali. He's 6'3". He's 220 plus pounds. Is a man. And he fought in a power position. Guys, he fought in a power position all night long. He came forward. Coming forward in that position. Fury's fighting off his back foot. Power position. It's different. You're heavy on that front foot. You're coming forward. You can punch harder. Everybody can punch. But in terms of what it is that does to him physically, I don't know. I think it's more psychological. Because there were times in the middle of that fight where Fury was trying to big brother Usyk. Man, you can't hurt me. Man, I'm too big for you. Man, I'm too athletic for you. Man, he had that mentality. That's why he was on the ropes, grabbing the sides, doing what he was doing, playing to the crowd. And then to get beat and get hurt and get dropped, that can break you psychologically. I don't know if Usyk's that kind of guy, but that's an aspect of this.
Well, we have a question from JS392. I promise it's not Jimmy Smith because I'm here. But JS392 says, if they do end up having a trilogy, Fury comes out 2-1. How much bigger does that make Fury versus Joshua down the line? What's your general thought of Joshua now in this mix, given the result we got tonight?
You know, I thought Joshua, since hooking up with Ben Davison, looks awesome. He's really, really sharp. I would love to see him into this mix, but if we're gonna get these rematches, we're gonna have to see Joshua against some of these other guys like your Urgoviches or your Dubois or whatnot, but or some of these other guys. There's a lot of good heavyweights right now. So in the meantime, it seems like Joshua's gonna have to stay busy with other guys if we're gonna get this rematch possible trilogy. A trilogy's not guaranteed, guys. I mean, what if Usyk wins the rematch as well? That's it. Right. This is done, you know, and then you have a bona fide best heavyweight of the generation. If you have a trilogy, I think it will be even greater for boxing, as long as it's not forced with some kind of BS robbery, where then you just force the trilogy, well then, you know, that's not going to be good for boxing. But I think if you have an organically built trilogy, you know, the way you had with, you know, Bo and Holyfield, for example, that's going to benefit boxing. I mean, people have fond memories of the 90s because those rivalries were organic. And if you can build this that way, and it happens that way, it's obviously a lot of it is going to be up to Fury to win the rematch the right way. I think it would benefit boxing in general in the heavyweight division. But Joshua is up that level. But we're going to have to see Joshua fight other guys in the meantime. Joshua can't just stay on the sidelines while these guys at least wait for the rematch and a possible trilogy. I want to see Joshua. Honestly, I've loved the way he's looked recently. But luckily, we have a lot of good heavyweights out there. So Joshua can be seen against these guys.
Chris, what's your thoughts on Joshua in the mix now? Now we have Usyk over Fury. What's your thoughts on him in the heavyweight mix?
Well, if I'm going off that question, if.
Yeah.
Really smart man once said, if my aunt had balls, she'd be my uncle.
Yeah. It was one of those.
Wonder who would say that, right? This guy right there next to me. Exactly.
So,
yeah.
There's a lot of moving parts for that scenario because, like Champ, like you said, if Usyk beats Fury, then this is the moot point. If Joshua loses to Urgovich, this is a moot point. There's a lot of ifs that need to happen. Urgovich needs to beat Dubois, which is, you know, if he doesn't, that's a moot point too. There's so many end stops to this discussion. It's really not even worth having.
You know, Caitlyn Jenner has balls. Is she Kim Kardashian's kid's grandmother?
We could have a totally differment discussion.
All right, don't answer
that. Totally different. We're discussing boxing here and a great heavyweight fight. We have some more questions about it from our chat. Could the monkey be off the back of Fury now that he has a loss? A lot of fighters talk about undefeated. It starts to wear on you. There starts to be a certain amount of pressure that it maybe makes him fight a little bit more free. Paulie, we've seen that before with undefeated guys losing that and coming back better. Possible for Fury?
I mean, yeah. I mean, anything's possible. Again, these are all hypotheticals. In a generation of fun heavyweights, this is another hypothetical. I do think Fury always fights free, though. I think when Fury's at his best, he does fight a very freewheeling style. So I don't know if the loss is going to actually be beneficial in any way. But it could, you know, force him to kind of dig down a little more, go into his brain and try to figure out, with his team what the possible right game plan would be to win the fight against Usyk. If there's the adjustments that need to be made, he's a smart guy. He's got a smart team around him, so there's possibilities there. I don't necessarily think that the monkey's off his back, so to speak, because I always felt Fury, especially out of all guys, fought in a very freewheeling style, very creative style. He kind of adjusted as he went along.
Speaking of time, what I'm curious about here, Chris, is that Usyk has said, I'm going to stop by the time I'm 40, right? He's 37 years old now, 3 years. Our own Juan Manuel Marquez says that's insane. This is when you start making really big money, or these years where you're undisputed heavyweight champion. The next few fights, when you talk about legacy and money, is the world open for Usyk? What are your thoughts on his future in the next couple of years? Do you think he does retire at 40 if he's still winning?
No, he retires before 40. He said 40 because of the looming rematch. Only reason.
Yeah.
Bro, you get one more fight like this? What are you fighting for anymore?
Yeah. I mean, especially if he wins it. Especially if he wins it. If he wins it, I mean, it's a perfect stopping point. Of course, the other side is what Marquez said. I mean, the money would just be thrown at you left, right, and center.
Yeah, but
especially from the Middle
40,
East. But
he's 37. You get one more of these.
Jeb, I agree. We're not in his position.
Right.
He wins this fight. He wins the next. If he wins the rematch, it's an exclamation point on your career. If he wins Olympic gold medal, cruiserweight undisputed champion, heavyweight undisputed champion, you
beat Joshua and Fury.
Yeah, and you beat all the best cruiserweights of your generation, too. I mean, there's nothing more that you can do that will make people say you're even greater. At that point, there's nothing more you can do. It's just money. Nothing more you can only go down. You've reached the ceiling. Go ahead.
Paulie, he beats Fury again. Mm-hmm. What the hell else is there to do?
Exactly. That's the ceiling.
Zero.
You can only find something to be more criticized about by diminishing yourself. You reach the ceiling if you beat Fury again.
Go home to Ukraine and fight for $10 million against Jimmy Smith. Who cares? I
take it. I'll do it. I don't care. I would take an ass whooping. You have no idea.
$500K.
I would be happy to do it. Like I've never been knocked out before in my life.
Who cares?
We do it right now. I have no problem with it all. So, as you say, Paulie, when you look at history and how it will judge Usyk, top 5 heavyweight all time, just give me a number that you think he's in all time.
I mean, again, like I said before, I think he's in the conversation for the greatest heavyweight of all time. You're never going to really get one. The people say, oh, are you crazy? That's Ali. Are you crazy? That's Lennox Lewis. Are you crazy? There's not really a right answer to that, guys. I mean, it's like, but this guy, first of all, came up in a system like the Soviet system. Where, first of all, a lot of the guys in the past didn't have to fight the Soviets, okay? So Usyk has if you're going to judge Usyk, you have to judge Usyk also by the advantage that he came up in an era where there was also the Eastern Europeans that were turning pro, including himself. If Usyk came along in the 60s, we would have never heard about him.
Teofimo Stevenson, we never saw him fight as a pro. Felix Savant, never saw him as a pro.
And mind you, there was a guy who knocked out Stevenson twice. Was from the USSR. We never even heard him. I think his name was Grachev, okay? Yep. So, if you guys look up that guy, too. He could beat Stevenson twice. Knocked him out once, and I think dropped him a couple times and won a decision against him. So what I'm saying is, if Usyk came around in the 60s, you'd never have heard of him. So, this is the era that he's come around in, and the reason we know about him is because of this era. When you're judging all-time heavyweights and all this other stuff, I feel like there's an advantage if you're the best of this era too, because you're fighting a part of the world that everybody else didn't have to fight, in past eras. And it doesn't make Usyk the number one. I'm just saying it's always going to be debatable. There's no right and wrong answer. I'm not going to argue about who the best heavyweight of all time is because there's no right answer. I mean, you can't really compare it. You can't compare eras. There's a 15-round era as well, which is, you throw something else into the mix, like the extra 3 rounds. Would that make a difference? Marciano doesn't beat Walcott if there's not 15 rounds. Right, it's like Ali doesn't stop Frazier in the Thrilla Manila if there's not 15 rounds. So it's hard to compare eras, but nonetheless, he's in the conversation. If you want to talk about him, he might be the best heavyweight of all time, you wouldn't be crazy to at least have that discussion. Just like you wouldn't be crazy to have Ali in that discussion, Lennox Lewis in that discussion, and whatever. There's no right and wrong answer to that question.
Chris, well, I'm curious. Paulie and I were discussing this during the fight itself. Comparatively short pro career because of his lengthy amateur, much like Lomachenko. Didn't have a long professional career. When you talk about legacy and greatest of all time.
Olympic gold medal.
Yeah.
Olympic gold medal has to count too.
Yeah, but my question is a comparatively short career in the pros. How do you think that affects his legacy? Very curious about that, Chris.
I don't. I mean, his accomplishments speak for themselves, and doing it with less pro fights and less experience, it just elevates you.
Yeah, because he's beaten all the guys of his era. He's beaten at this point. He's
He
beaten
didn't
them
get
all.
the 20, as you said.
But that's
Yeah.
you didn't get the free 20. You know,
Right.
you get the free 20 when you turn pro, right? The free 20 wins. Him, Lomachenko, if you really look at the way they turned pro, they just went right into contention right away. They weren't given the free 20 wins everybody else gets. You know, so I don't know if that should be counted against him. No. He didn't waste everybody's time. Go ahead, champ.
Speed to title matters.
Yeah, good point.
Yeah, it matters. It matters a lot. And so I think it's actually the opposite. So you're like, oh, he doesn't have that much experience. Yeah, good. Yeah, that means more. Because, and again, like you said, champ, he beat the best guys in our era. He beat Anthony Joshua. He beat Tyson Fury. So yeah, granted, he only fought Chisora, Chaz Witherspoon. Hey, what does he have?
Joshua twice.
5 fights?
Yeah, Joshua twice.
2, 4, 5. He has 5 heavyweight fights. Speed the title matters. But also he beat the best guys. It wasn't like he snaked his way through and didn't fight the best of the best. He already did that.
Yeah.
So
and by being an ex-cruiserweight champion, you're gonna kind of jump in. Holyfield was an ex-cruiserweight world champion. He got the title shot with Douglas almost immediately as soon as he got to the heavyweight division. So maybe 1 or 2 fights.
Foreman got more off a loss.
Yeah. So again, your accomplishments at cruiserweight also speed you to the top of the heavyweight division, or at least get a shot. And we saw that with Holyfield, and we saw that with Usyk as well. But Usyk had to also beat Joshua. You know,
it's wild. Really think about it. Usyk only beat Chisora to get the Anthony Joshua fight. Yeah. So a lot of people might argue, no, he didn't deserve that fight, but he obviously is based off his cruiserweight dominance. And listen, guys, if you go back and you watch,
Holyfield got busted Douglas off the cruiserweight championships. You know, so
yeah, but it wasn't Anthony Joshua.
It was the guy that. That's in hindsight. It was the guy that knocked out Mike Tyson, though.
We didn't know it was Buster until that point. Yeah,
but Buster wasn't Buster before that fight. He wasn't Buster after that fight. He was Buster for one night.
It was supposed to be Tyson, and just Tyson got beat by Douglas.
Yeah. But my point was that if you really look at Usyk and the way that he captured those titles like cruiserweight, he was taking the heads of all the champions. Yeah. He did it the hard way. The way Spence did at 47. He fighting champions, he beat them, he took their titles and moved on. That's very impressive. Beating the champion. Listen, I always say it all the time. Winning a vacant title is not the same as beating a champion. This guy beat champion. And then he went up to heavyweight and he beat champions. And he continues to beat champions.
I have a question for both you gentlemen. I'm going to start with you, Paulie. It was Sun, Sale, and San asked this question. Fury has had mental breakdowns after huge wins. This is the first loss. If it impacts him mentally, does he have time left to recover on the mental side? I'm curious, do you think his mental state or how he deals with this loss will be a story in the next couple months? What's your thought?
I don't think so. I think if there's something to worry about Fury is when he retires. When it's all done and then he doesn't have this to kind of keep him sane. But that's where you would hope that a good relationship with his family would keep him sane and strong because he's also older and more mature. I don't think the wheels are gonna fall off the wagon now because you got a rematch to prepare for, which is redemption and a lot more cash. So I don't see the wheels falling off the wagon right now.
Your thoughts, Chris? When will we know? How will we know? Will we know soon? What's your thought on it? His mental state after this?
Honestly, I can't speak to that at all. I have no idea about another man's mental state and what their issues are and what they've been through. I have no comment.
We can't play psychology.
Yeah,
well, we can guess. We can imagine what it'd be like, though.
Right, you can guess, but you don't know.
Yeah.
According to our poll, should the fight have ended in a 9th round TKO? Yes, 57%. No, 42%. By boxing rules, you're wrong. The ropes didn't hold him up.
I mean, unless you feel like he didn't deserve the chance to even be counted. That's then if you think that fight should have been stopped without being counted because he was so hurt that he didn't deserve. But obviously he
clearly recovered.
Obviously he proved that he could recover and the fight shouldn't have been stopped. Because again, if the ropes hold you up, guys, for anybody who's joined the chat late, if the ropes hold you up, it is counted as a knockdown, even though a lot of referees make the mistake of not counting as a knockdown. If the ropes hold you up, and clearly the ropes held up Tyson Fury, you're allowed to count it as a knockdown, and it's not a standing 8 count technically, it's a knockdown.
Yeah. So, Chris, when you look at this fight, we have another Captain Casual said, not sure I've seen such balls in the ring since the post-show party at Devonish. Don't know exactly what that means. I don't care. My point is, this fight will go down, Chris.
Take it as you will.
Yeah, right. Take it as you will. The way that you saw this fight, technique, balls, what's going to stand out to you more when you think about this fight and the entertainment value and what it brought? Technique, balls, what's the judgment to you?
First of all, I'm going to hang my hat on the fact that I don't know what that means.
Thank you. We all don't.
Well, his name's Captain Casual, so I feel like if anything, the casuals always can even the casuals can understand it's balls, right? It's
right.
It's nuts and
was
guts.
Easily understandable.
The difference with casuals and hardcores is the IQ. The hardcores will understand how a cerebral a fight is being fought, but nuts and guts, balls to the wall. Even the casuals can understand, and I feel like this fight can be appreciated by both the casuals and the hardcores for that reason.
Chris, your thought on it?
Yeah, I mean, I think I already said that. I think these guys matched wits. They found out they were evenly matched, and it came down to balls, and Usyk won.
We are now finding out. Matt Borgerson just put in the chat. Usyk won that fight with a broken jaw, by the way. That may have come out at some point. I don't know.
I mean, thanks, Matt, but we gotta find that out for sure.
Gotta verify.
Yeah, it's hard to get an X-ray. It's hard to get an X-ray that fast.
Yeah,
you know. But this is where we didn't see the post-fight interview, guys.
We did not see the post-fight.
Did he give a post-fight interview? I mean, I would assume he would have had to give a post-fight interview if he won the fight. Now, if he wasn't able to give a post-fight interview, then okay, you start to wonder if his jaw's broken. But if you got a broken jaw, you're not going to be able to give a post-fight interview. So,
well, two guys who have broken their jaw before. There's varying levels of broken jaws.
Right.
So you can have a broken jaw or a dislocated jaw or any kind of jaw, and kind of can't really tell. And you can have someone who breaks their jaw and they literally have to be rushed to the hospital. So there's varying levels of broken jaws.
When you're looking at the next step forward, you have said it, Chris, that you believe Usyk is out. One more fight. This rematch, and he might be done before the age of 40. Paulie, I'm curious what you would think. Now is the money time. Marquez said it. Now is the money time. Rematching out, or did you add a couple more fights to his legacy before he goes? What's your thought on the future?
Legacy. Win the rematch. Retire. Lennox Lewis really showed how important it is to go out on top in this heavyweight picture.
Ward as well.
You know, Andre Ward did as well, but in the heavyweight picture, it's almost remembered even more. Obviously, if we go below the heavyweights, we can even add Joe Calzaghe to that mix. But if you go off on top off of such a big win, you know, Lennox beat Vitaly Klitschko. Be it controversial as it may be, 20 years ago, nobody's talking about the controversy of that fight. They're talking about that he beat Vitaly Klitschko and retired. You just won a major fight here, unifying the heavyweight championship. If he's able to win the rematch, it is the time to secure that legacy and retire. You know, you got enough money that you write your name in history that way.
Well, apparently he did give a post-fight interview. He dedicated the fight to his father. Doesn't seem to be a jaw problem, unless there's something we find out about later. If we do, trust me, we're going to talk about it here on ProBox TV. The guts of that performance alone. Broken jaw, no broken jaw. Incredible performance from Usyk. Chris, you're standing by. You think one more, or do you think he adds more to his legs here? Is it just a rematch and then he's done?
He could be done now. It's up to him. I mean, he is a man at the helm of his ship, and he's got a battleship, and he's got a lot of heads in his trophy case at this point. He can do whatever he wants to do. He's on top of the world. This man has overcome so much. He is a soldier. I keep using that word. He fights with a spirit that, at this stage of the world, of the current boxing world, is unmatched. And he can do whatever he wants. I mean, if he wants to keep going, he can. If he doesn't, I wouldn't knock him one bit. If he wants to fight one more fight, cool. If you want to fight one more after that, whatever you want to do, bro. You're the man. You're the man. We need to bow down to Usyk at this point. Like, you're the guy. You can do whatever you want.
According to Michael Benson on @MichaelBenson, Tyson Fury has arrived at the post-fight press conference. Alexander Usyk has gone to the hospital with a suspected broken jaw and won't be attending. Suspected. Could be a fracture. Could be something weird.
Yeah, you don't really know until you get the X-ray.
Just like Paulie said, X-rays matter.
Yeah, we don't really know. But and also, you know, like I can remember I broke my hand so many times, I could tell if my hand was broken or if it was just injured, deep bruised, because I'd had the feeling of a broken hand constantly. I'm not sure that Usyk has had his jaw broken before, where he would know that this is what he's dealing with. You know, I can remember in my career, you know, they would take off the gloves, and they would be swollen, and people would say, "Oh, you got a broken hand." And I'd be like, "It's not broken. It hurts, but it's not broken. It is probably a deep bruise." And then there were times when my hand was hurt, and I was like, "This is broken." Like, but that was from experiencing that all the time. I don't know how many broken. Yeah,
I've also been held with uppercuts in sparring, where you get that swelling in the back of your jaw, and you can't close your mouth, and you're like, everyone goes, "Oh, your jaw's broken." I'm like, no, it's just swollen.
Yeah, so you don't know. That's why you get the checkup at the X-ray. Either way, obviously he took a good shot. Right. For him to go to the hospital for necessitating his jaw at least checked.
Uppercuts break jaws, and he got hit with a bunch.
And he got hit with a bunch, exactly.
Question here, Gerard Stewart, is Usyk now officially the greatest cruiserweight of all time over Evander Holyfield because of his success at heavyweight? Does it translate?
Again, debatable. You know, again, it's something. It's one of those things you could say that, you know, but you wouldn't be right or you wouldn't be wrong. You know what I mean? Like, and it wouldn't be a ridiculous thing to say either. You know, it's just one of those things, guys. I mean, you know, a lot of people get into arguments about cross generational fights that will never happen, and people literally argue about it. You can't argue about it because it's something that there's no real right and wrong answer to it, unless you're adding a name that doesn't belong in that conversation. But surely, Usyk and Holyfield are in the conversation for the best cruiserweight ever. So, you know, take your pick, man. It's nice to be debated in that conversation. If you're part of that conversation, if you're Holyfield or Usyk, you got to be proud of that conversation regardless.
When you look at it, both these guys going to have to make adjustments for the rematch. What I'm a little curious about, we talked about the adjustments Fury needs to make for a rematch. Is there anything, Chris, great performance from Usyk, is there anything you as a trainer, you as a professional, would like to see him change? Should they fight again in a rematch that is going to make a ton of money? What would you say Usyk should have done a little differently this time out?
Well, I'm going to say that Tyson Fury had a great performance as well. Yeah. I thought this was a great fight. Both these guys really came prepared. They fought their hearts out. It's just one man edged the other one, and this is what the sport of competition, what the sport of boxing is all about. I mean, this is a fantastic fight. This is not only good for each of them. This is good for the sport in a whole. This is good for the health of our business. But in terms of what he needs to do next time, I don't know if he has any more options. I don't know if there's another way to fight Tyson Fury, because if he took a backward step, Tyson is a MFer going forward. Once he gets those hands going and he's got that size advantage and he feels confident, because he's a rhythmic fighter. When he finds his rhythm, and he found his rhythm in the middle rounds, then those hands go. The hand speed, people are underestimating the hand speed of Tyson Fury. He looked fast tonight, and he's got a hard right hand. The punches early on looked way harder and were landing with real concussive force throughout. And Usyk is just tough, man. I think he got hurt to the body. I think he got hurt to the head. He just doesn't show it. He's a stoic guy. I don't really know how much better Usyk could fight. I don't think there's really an adjustment that he could really make. I think the adjustments would have to come from Fury, because he has more options. And with Usyk, he fights everybody like that. That's how he fights. I mean, I would say maybe stay a little more invisible, go to the weaker side more, cut the angles. He stayed in front a lot, but I think that was the game plan too. He wanted to push Fury back on his back foot. He wanted to be in a power position. I mentioned that earlier. Being in that position where you're coming forward, chin is tucked, hands are high, you're in a position to punch hard. You know, he fought like that the whole night. I don't know if he can switch that up and still be victorious against a guy who is versatile as Tyson Fury is.
Well, it was a great fight. We're going to be talking about it all week. Also, don't forget, May 22nd, this Wednesday, Chris, Paulie and I will be ringside. That's right, ProBox TV, another competitive main event, hopefully as good as the one we just saw. But we talked about it all week. Jimmy Smith, Paulie Malignaggi, Chris Algieri, for all of us behind the scenes. It was a great fight. We now have an undisputed champion. We'll see you next time right here on ProBox TV.
Wednesday night fights on ProBox TV. Evenly matched fights, 50-50. If you're looking for competitive matchups, every other Wednesday night fights on ProBox TV.
Join Chris, Paulie, and myself ringside every other Wednesday on ProBox TV.
Dynamite action on Wednesday night fights every other Wednesday on your boxing channel, ProBox TV.
On the next Wednesday night fights, May 22nd, Batarjan Jukambayev once again returns to ProBox TV to face Ivan El Terrible Redcock. And in the co-main, Brazilian knockout artist Jonathan Maximo Cardoso against California's Adam Blue Nose Lopez. Live from the ProBox Event Center in Plant City. Get your tickets at proboxtv.com or take your chances at the door. Wednesday night fights.